here at the Eastern Gate in Jerusalem, and this is the Eastern Gate.
For nearly 5 centuries, the Golden Gate of Jerusalem has stood sealed, its massive stones unmoved, its arches silent, its entrance forbidden. Generations have walked past it, aware of its legends, but never expecting change. Yet now, whispers echo through the ancient streets. The gate has cracked. Not a full opening, but enough to stir the hearts of those who know what this could mean. Could this be the first sign of something the scriptures foretold long ago? On the eastern wall of the old city of Jerusalem stands a structure unlike any other, a double-arched gateway, weathered by centuries of sun, wind, and prayer. Known as the Golden Gate, or in Hebrew, Sha'ar HaRachamim, the Gate of Mercy. It faces directly toward the Mount of Olives, where prophecy and history are woven tightly together. It is the only eastern gate of the Temple Mount, and it holds a place in Jewish, Christian, and Islamic tradition. The book of Ezekiel speaks of a gate that will remain shut until the Prince, the Messiah, comes to enter it. Ezekiel 44:1-3. For believers, this is no ordinary piece of stone and mortar. It is a divine marker in the unfolding plan of God. Through the ages, it has been called by many names: the beautiful gate of Acts 3, where a lame man was healed; the Eastern Gate, which the prophet Zechariah envisioned as the entry point for the Lord when his feet would stand on the Mount of Olives. For the faithful, its silence is not a sign of abandonment, but of expectation. The sealed stones seem to whisper, "Not yet, but soon." But why has it remained shut for so long? And who decided that no man should pass through it until the appointed time? The answer takes us deep into the shadowy corridors of history. The year was 1541. The ruling power over Jerusalem was the Ottoman Empire, under the reign of Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent. History tells us that the Sultan, aware of Jewish prophecies that the Messiah would enter Jerusalem through this very gate,
Ears to hear and eyes to see. For centuries, this gate has symbolized one thing: the promised return of the Messiah.
gave an unshakable order: seal it with stone and mortar. The Messiah, he believed, would not be able to enter if the path was blocked. But Suleiman went further. In front of the sealed gate, he ordered a Muslim cemetery to be placed, believing that the presence of graves would deter any Jewish priestly figure from passing through, for according to Jewish law, a priest should not defile himself by contact with the dead. Yet his act, meant to stop prophecy, only deepened its mystery. It was as if the sealing itself was part of the story God was writing. The prophet Ezekiel's words became more literal than anyone could have imagined. "This gate shall be shut, it shall not be opened, and no man shall enter by it." And so, for nearly 500 years, the gate has stood in silence. Pilgrims from across the world have gazed at it, prayed before it, and wondered, when will the stones give way? Biblical prophecy is not mere poetry. It is the heartbeat of God's revealed plan. Ezekiel's vision in chapter 44 describes a gate facing east, sealed until the time of the prince's coming. This is no vague symbol. Its location matches exactly the Golden Gate's position. But there's more. Zechariah 14 speaks of the day when the Lord will set his feet on the Mount of Olives, splitting it in two, and entering the city in triumph. Isaiah 62 proclaims that Zion's gates will be prepared for the coming king. For Christians, these passages point to the return of Jesus Christ, entering Jerusalem not in the humility of a donkey, as he did in his first coming, but in power and glory. The gate's location also connects with the triumphal entry recorded in the Gospels, when Jesus approached from the Mount of Olives. That moment, a prophetic foreshadowing, is believed by many to be tied directly to the final fulfillment yet to come. And now, with reports of a crack running through its ancient stones, hearts around the world are stirred. Is this merely erosion and time doing their work? Or is this the quiet knock before the king himself arrives to open what no man can keep shut? When Sultan Suleiman ordered the Golden Gate sealed,
It was sealed by the Ottoman Sultan Suleiman.
it was not simply a matter of architectural modification. It was an act rooted in fear and superstition. The Sultan had been told of Jewish prophecies that spoke of a coming king, the Messiah, who would liberate his people and rule from Jerusalem. Such a figure would not only threaten his empire, but also challenge the Islamic dominion over the holy city. The fear was real. In the Ottoman worldview, spiritual authority and political control were intertwined. To lose Jerusalem to a prophesied Messiah would mean losing legitimacy and power. And so, in a symbolic act of defiance against heaven's plan, Suleiman's masons laid heavy stones into the gate's arches, sealing them completely. The cemetery at the foot of the gate was more than a burial ground. It was a fortress of bones. In his mind, it created a spiritual barrier that would keep the Messiah at bay. But in trying to defy prophecy, Suleiman became part of it. Every believer who sees the sealed gate today remembers the words of Psalm 2. The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together, against the Lord and against his anointed. He who sits in the heavens shall laugh. Centuries have passed since Suleiman's decree, and yet the sealed gate stands as a silent testimony that no empire, no ruler, and no decree can stop what God has ordained. From the earliest days of Israel's prophets, the East has carried deep spiritual significance. In Genesis, the Garden of Eden had its entrance facing east. In the tabernacle and later the temple, the entrance faced east, symbolizing readiness to receive the glory of God. Ezekiel's vision in chapter 43 is striking. And the glory of the God of Israel came from the way of the east, and the glory of the Lord came into the house by the way of the gate whose prospect is toward the east. For many, this is a direct reference to the Golden Gate. It is believed that when the Messiah comes, his feet will touch the Mount of Olives, and he will proceed directly through this eastern gate into the Temple Mount.
Following multiple riots near the Golden Gate in Jerusalem last week, Palestinian protests at the Temple Mount.
For Christians, this prophecy aligns with Acts 1, where Jesus ascended from the Mount of Olives with the promise that he would return in like manner. The trajectory is clear, eastward, through the gate, into the heart of Jerusalem. For centuries, this has been the longing cry of believers, "Come, Lord Jesus." The sealing of the gate, rather than hindering this hope, has only heightened anticipation. The very fact that the gate remains unopened for so long is seen as proof that the prophecy has not yet been fulfilled, but will be in God's perfect timing. Today, the Golden Gate sits within one of the most politically and spiritually contested pieces of land on earth, the Old City of Jerusalem. Its stones are weathered, its arches filled with thick blocks that seem immovable. On the surface, it is simply another historical site, guarded by the complexities of religious tensions and international politics. Yet beneath its stillness, a current of spiritual expectation flows. Tourists stand before it, snapping photos, unaware of the weight of prophecy behind those sealed doors. But for those who understand, each glance at the gate is a silent prayer. Jerusalem itself has changed dramatically over the centuries. It has been under Ottoman, British, Jordanian, and Israeli control. Wars have been fought at its borders. Peace agreements have been signed and broken. And yet the Golden Gate, sealed since the 16th century, has remained untouched until now. The report of a crack appearing in its stone is more than a structural note. It is a possible tremor in the timeline of prophecy. Some dismiss it as weathering. Others see it as a whisper from God, reminding the world that no wall stands forever when heaven has decreed it shall fall. It began as an almost imperceptible change, one that might have gone unnoticed in any other city. But this is Jerusalem, the city of David, where every stone is watched, where walls speak of covenants and wars, and where prophecy hovers like a mantle over the skyline. The Golden Gate, sealed for nearly 5 centuries, had stood unyielding through empire after empire.
The Eastern Gate of Jerusalem, also known as the Golden Gate, has remained sealed for over 5 centuries, locked tight.
And yet now, witnesses began to speak of a faint but undeniable fissure creeping across a section of its ancient masonry. At first, it was only a whisper among locals, shopkeepers, guides, and devout pilgrims who often paused to pray near the eastern wall. Some said the line had always been there, a trick of light and shadow. Others swore they had seen it form in recent months, almost as if the stone itself had been nudged. Photographs began to circulate among the faithful, shared quietly through prayer groups and prophecy forums, before reaching broader audiences. In Jerusalem, the smallest of physical changes can send waves through the spiritual world. This was not just any gate. According to Ezekiel's vision, this was the very portal through which the Prince, the Messiah, would one day enter. Its sealing in 1541 by Suleiman the Magnificent was meant to stop that moment from ever arriving. Yet now, nature, or perhaps something far greater, had left its mark upon the barrier. Engineers and historians offered calm explanations. They spoke of expansion and contraction, the way ancient stone responds to centuries of shifting temperatures. They pointed to the possibility of seismic tremors, Jerusalem being near fault lines. But for those steeped in the scriptures, no explanation could wash away the feeling that this was more than erosion. Isaiah 62:6 says, "I have posted watchmen on your walls, Jerusalem. They will never be silent day or night." The watchmen of today are not only priests and prophets, they are believers across the world who keep their spiritual eyes open. Many of them saw this crack as the faint outline of a future opening. Perhaps not today, perhaps not tomorrow, but one day. For the believer, such a sight does not inspire fear, but awe. It is a reminder that what man seals, God can unseal at His appointed time. A gate that has withstood wars, weather, and human defiance could yield in an instant if heaven so wills it, and in that instant, the world will change forever. The first images of the crack spread quietly at first. Private messages between friends, prayer circles murmuring about something happening in Jerusalem. But in an age where information crosses oceans in seconds, the quiet did not last. Within weeks, photographs and shaky video clips of the fissure in the Golden Gate were being dissected on prophecy websites, broadcast on Christian television programs, and debated across social media platforms. The reactions were as divided as they were passionate. In Israel, religious scholars handled the matter with great caution. Some within the Jewish community viewed it as insignificant, a product of weather and time. Others, especially among those deeply familiar with messianic prophecy, were stirred to a quiet, cautious excitement. The gate's history, after all, is inseparable from the expectation of a coming king. Among Christians worldwide, the crack became a headline in prophecy-focused ministries. Preachers and Bible teachers connected it to Ezekiel 44. "This gate shall be shut, it shall not be opened, and no man shall enter by it. It is for the prince." Many asked whether this might be the first tangible sign that the long-awaited opening could be near. Even in the Islamic world, the gate holds significance, as it sits within the Haram al-Sharif, an area revered in Islam. Some Muslim historians noted the event with interest, recalling that the cemetery in front of the gate was intentionally placed there centuries ago to prevent the Jewish Messiah's arrival. And then there were the skeptics. Secular voices dismissed the matter outright, calling it superstition, another example of people reading too much into random occurrences. They likened it to those who see shapes in clouds or patterns in weather. Yet history tells us something important. Jerusalem has always been the epicenter of world attention, and events that seem small to the eye can have outsized spiritual and political impact. A single change, a stone shifted, a wall breached, has often been the spark for movements, revivals, and even wars. Psalm 122:6 commands, "Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. May they prosper who love you." For those who obey this command, the crack was more than news. It was a call to intensified prayer. For them, it was not about predicting exact timelines, but about recognizing the weight of the hour. When the stones of prophecy shift, the people of God must be awake, watchful, and ready. The question rose almost immediately. If the Golden Gate is showing signs of change, could this mean that prophecy is moving forward in a visible way? For some, the thought is thrilling. For others, it's sobering, because the same prophecies that speak of the Messiah's coming also speak of great upheaval before that day. The scriptures present a layered view of the end times. In Matthew 24, Jesus speaks of wars, rumors of wars, earthquakes, famines, and the spread of the gospel to all nations before the end will come. In 2 Thessalonians 2, Paul warns of a time of great deception and rebellion before the appearance of the man of lawlessness, an antichrist figure. Revelation describes scenes of both terrible judgment and glorious victory. Within this framework, the Golden Gate holds a specific place. Ezekiel's vision and Zechariah's prophecy point to an eastward entry by the Lord Himself into Jerusalem, accompanied by profound changes both spiritual and physical. For many interpreters, the opening of the Eastern Gate is not just an isolated event, it is part of a divine sequence that will culminate in the reign of the Messiah. If the current crack is the first step toward that opening, it could mean we are closer than many realize to the unfolding of events long written in Scripture. But as Jesus Himself said in Matthew 24:36, "No one knows the day or the hour." The point is not to fix a date, but to keep watch. This moment challenges believers to examine their own readiness. Are we living as though the King could return at any time? Are we proclaiming the gospel while there is still time? The opening of a gate may seem like a small thing, but in God's prophetic calendar, even the smallest hinge can swing the door to eternity wide open. The Golden Gate stands today as it has for centuries, sealed, silent, and yet charged with expectation. But if the recent crack is indeed the beginning of a divine unlocking, then we may be witnessing one of the most significant prophetic developments of our generation. Psalm 24 paints the scene vividly. Lift up your heads, you gates. Lift them up, you ancient doors, that the King of Glory may come in. The image is not just poetic.
According to prophecy, the King of Glory will one day enter Jerusalem through this very gate.
It is a declaration that the gates of Jerusalem will one day respond to the arrival of the Lord himself. The history of this gate is a history of attempts to stop prophecy. From Suleiman's ceiling to the placement of the cemetery, every measure taken to block the Messiah's entry stands as a testament to man's efforts to resist the will of God. Yet time and again, history shows that human opposition cannot alter divine decree. If the threshold between history and eternity is as close as some believe, then we are not just observers of an ancient stone wall. We are witnesses to the convergence of all things. For believers, this is not a moment for fear, but for hope and holy urgency. It is a time to set aside the distractions of the world, to lift our eyes toward the eastern horizon, and to echo the cry of Revelation 22:20. Even so, come, Lord Jesus. The crack in the Golden Gate may be small, but its message is vast. The King is coming, and no power on earth can keep him out. And when he comes, those sealed stones will burst open, not by human effort, but by the authority of the one who declares, I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. A single crack in an ancient gate has stirred the world. But is it a coincidence, or the quiet opening move in a prophecy thousands of years in the making? The question now is, how close are we to seeing the King of Glory walk through those gates? If you've been watching with us, don't stop now. Subscribe, share this, and let's keep our eyes fixed on Jerusalem together. The story isn't over. It may be just beginning.